torso. The window was left open, bringing the temperature in the room to a chilling low of around 30 degrees. The eerie similarities raise harrowing questions. Is this simply a coincidence or the beginning of a brutal killing spree? With many questions for David's wife, Lois, Minnesota investigators begin looking for her, but she's nowhere to be found. In an effort to trace her movements, they review local business surveillance, starting from the last time the couple was seen together. On March 11th, David and Lois both enter their local general store. David walks out at 9:01 a.m. and would never be seen on surveillance footage again. The following day, Lois explains to Thomas that David has fallen ill and would begin using David's phone to text his co-workers. However, as Thomas explains, it was more than the unusual text messages that left him concerned that something was terribly wrong.
We have a money bag in that's where my drive slips go and all our checks for my customers. Okay. I did my route on Friday, yesterday, and I noticed everything was missing out of there. All the checks out of the money bag.
On Monday, March 12th, Lois enters Citizen State Bank, approaching the counter with a check from David's account, written to her in the amount of
Nope, not my
$1,000.
words.
The teller
Not at
fails
all.
to notice that David's signature doesn't match the previous ones on record. Over the next several days, Lois would use David's credit card at several establishments, including a liquor store, Vandal's Family Market, and multiple times at the Woodfire Grill, a restaurant inside Diamond Joe's Casino in Northwood, Iowa, just across the Minnesota border.
Oh, okay.
Meanwhile, Greg confronts Lois about the missing checks from Prairie Wax Worms.
I sent her a text that I'd been informed there was checks missing out of the office, so I had to call the county sheriff, report stolen checks. And if you know anything, let me know. So she called me back in a couple hours and said, well, I got the checks. Dave sent me down to get them. They're up. I got them. At that point, I said, Lois, I need to talk to Dave. There was nothing. And I said, Lois, put Dave on the phone. And the last thing she says, Dave, don't roll over, and then hung up.
On March 16th, Lois would return to the Citizen State Bank with another check from David's account, written to herself for $2,500. The teller once again fails to notice the signature and gives her the funds in cash. As her shopping spree continued, Lois walked into a Fantastic Sam's hair salon in Austin, Minnesota on March 17th.
Yep, she came in and she was going to be going out for St. Patrick's Day. She said that she was going to be going to Diamond Joe Casino, so she wanted her hair to look like Peggy Bundy and have it nice and big.
3 days later, on March 20th, Lois is once again spotted on camera at the general store, this time wearing the same hoodie that David was wearing on the last day he was seen alive. At this point, David hasn't been seen in 9 days. Over the next 2 days, Lois returns to the bank, depositing over $8,000 into David's account at the drive-thru before transferring the money back into her account.
It's in law that they would take a check from one company to Prairie Wax Worms and let her cash them. But it looks like about 12 grand minimum, 14,000.
Okay, so they were actually the company checks?
Yep. Well, not Prairie Wax Worms. It was our customers' checks who had made payable to Prairie Wax Worms.
Lois would hit the Diamond Joe Casino again on March 22nd, where her unusual behavior caught the attention of a casino regular.
Just kept acting like she was real suspicious on who people were and what was going on, you know? Like she wasn't quite sure of her surroundings, who she could trust and who she couldn't.
Okay, so paranoid basically?
Yeah, kinda.
Finally, on March 23rd, when David fails to appear on the fishing tournament's live stream, Lois steps into the Citizen State Bank for a final time. She presents a $7,500 check from David's account, writing Spring Trip in the memo. After the teller delivers the cash, Lois takes David's white Cadillac Escalade and vanishes. It would later be discovered abandoned on Fort Myers Beach in Florida.
As a detective, you got any inkling if she's in an area? Do you think she's just... God damn it, I don't know how you get away.
Nope, nothing so far.
I just don't know.
Detectives in Minnesota and Florida have yet to realize the shocking connections between the murders of Pamela Hutchinson and David Reese. But a lucky break will soon drive the two separate investigations toward a fateful collision. 3 days before Pamela's murder, Lee County Sheriff's Office in Florida had received a concerning 911 call.
Hi, there's an ATV out for a Lois Reese from Blooming Prairie, Minnesota in Steele County. She just got out of her car at my Florida house. I also live in Blooming Prairie, so I know about the whole thing. She's in a white 05 Escalade. Okay, and if you do some research, it's Steele County, Minnesota, that's trying to find her.
Okay, so she has a warrant, is that what you're saying?
Yes, for the possible murder of her husband and for sure for embezzling charges.
Earlier the same day, the 911 caller, Tessa's daughter in Blooming Prairie, received a call from a woman named Stormy Liberty, who claimed to be Tessa's friend and asked for her address. Stormy Liberty was later identified as an alias that Lois used when opening a cell phone account. She was gone by the time police arrived, and just 3 days later, Pamela's life came to a tragic end. Now, after Pamela's death, as one deputy reviews the security footage from the Marina Village Motel, he recognizes the woman with Pamela as Lois Reese, based on Tessa's 911 call from 3 days ago.
I do rentals, so she had a little notepad like she was going to rent, but that's what I thought. And then she got out, and she saw me. I said, "Can I help you?" And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, I'm in the wrong place." And she quick got into her Escalade.
She said it was a 2005 white Escalade.
Colored Escalade.
After being recognized in the surveillance footage, Lois is officially named a person of interest in Pamela Hutchinson's murder. On April 10th, investigators in Florida contacted Minnesota law enforcement, requesting a photo to confirm their suspect, and finally, information between the two investigations was shared. With evidence connecting Lois to more than one murder, investigators are left with the chilling question: is she finished, or is she planning to strike again? While following her trail, those who knew her begin to share a troubling history with investigators, one that hints at a possible motive for her ruthless actions.
My grandpa passed away and she got her inheritance, and she was so unbelievably bored out there at that house. And the only time she was happy is when she'd have the grandkids out there, and she had them a lot. Okay. My kids and my brother's kids were there a lot. If she wasn't at, with us, like her kids or her grandkids, she was probably at the casino. And I had told my dad, and I told her, that I was getting concerned with how much she was going there. And she's like, Bria, it's just something for me to do. It's fun, but I don't have a problem. She blew through hundreds of thousands of dollars there. I had no idea it was that bad.
I bet. Pamela's credit cards missing.
With all of that, all that money sitting around, getting kind of almost stir crazy. That makes a lot of sense.
Investigators begin to trace where they may have been used. On April 6th, a woman claiming to be Pamela Hutchinson entered a Wells Fargo and withdrew $5,000, as seen in still images provided by the bank. The distinctive white hat, sunglasses, and blue shirt are the same clothes she was wearing in the surveillance footage at Marina Village.
So, does she have a gambling problem, or?
Oh, absolutely.
So
$400,000 worth 2 years ago.
How much?
400 stolen out of a trust that belonged to her dad and brothers and sisters that she was managing.
Did you say 400,000?
Yes, sir.
As investigators continue to follow Lois's trail, receipts show that she withdrew $1,500 from an ATM on April 7th, one day after leaving Marina Village in Pamela's stolen car.
How did he make it so she couldn't have any money, do you know?
Well, I think the last go-around, you gotta read between the lines with me. This is just conversation with Dave and I. I know all credit cards were taken away. I know she had no bank account. She wasn't a signature on any of his accounts.
Investigators also discover that Lois had recently checked into the Hilton Hotel in Ocala, Florida for a day, using Pamela's credit cards and forging her signature on the room service receipts.
When all the money stuff came up after he realized, that she has a bad gambling problem, and she went through all that money, she was put on lockdown, she couldn't have access to any money. And I told her many times, I understand why my dad was doing that. I get that. But I just told her that she should just, come live with me or my brother, because it wasn't a good situation to be in for either one of them.
Brianna further explains that the financial issues Lois faced as a result of her gambling problem led to an attempt to take her own life 2 years prior.
My dad found out about something, probably money related, I'm guessing, and he was yelling at her, and I don't know, he said a bunch of awful things to her, and then he left to go to the bank, and she said that she just felt like she just didn't want to deal with it anymore.
Sure.
As Brianna continues to explain Lois's financial troubles, she recalls a recent situation involving her disabled sister Kim that landed her in legal trouble.
My mom actually took care of my aunt for like 2 or 3 years. She lived with her, and was really, really, really awesome, and like did everything by the book that she was supposed to. And when she got into gambling, I think she took some money from my aunt Kim.
Okay.
They were going back and forth. My mom skipped the court thing. Her lawyer was gonna settle for like $30,000, but then my mom, like, her behavior, she just doesn't address anything. She just pretends like it doesn't happen, so she didn't go to court. And because she didn't, they put like a full judgment, so like $100,000 is, I think, that they're trying to get from.
For that?
Yeah.
Though Lois's alleged gambling history provides valuable insight for the detectives, they still have yet to establish her current whereabouts or the driving factor behind this horrific crime spree. With Lois's location and her motives still unclear, the fear that she may be armed, dangerous, and hunting for a new victim fuels their efforts as they continue following her trail. On April 8th, one day before Pamela's body was discovered, Lois attempted to use Pamela's credit card at an ATM in DeQuincy, Louisiana, but the transaction was declined. Investigators learned that Lois then traveled to another casino in Louisiana and won a $1,500 jackpot. As the interviews continue, one investigator brings up a possible concern that may make finding Lois an even more challenging endeavor.
I was just wondering if she was could make it to where she looked something different with makeup beyond the hair color, that she had some kind of a talent of what do you call the people?
Oh, makeup artist?
Makeup artist, yes.
But I don't think that, but I think that she was skilled enough with makeup that she could make herself look a little different. But I would say with a gambling problem,
yeah,
and now she's got time on her hands,
right,
she'll be at a casino.
However, Lois's son Billy has a far more grim expectation for how this fugitive search may end.
Based off her past actions, I'd say, I don't know, finding her alive probably isn't very good, as sick as that sounds.
Right.
She's obviously tried to do it before. I think this is a little bit more serious than that was, spending money.
Right. Right. You think she has any means of doing that, or?
Of hurting herself? Yeah, if she killed my dad.
At 11:16 p.m. on April 8th, Pamela's stolen Acura is seen traveling westbound on Interstate 10 in Lafayette, Louisiana, and once more on a license plate reader in Texas before the trail goes cold. With Lois continuing to cross state lines, a U.S. Marshals task force takes over the investigation and issues a BOLO for Lois Reese. She's now wanted for 2 murders, grand theft auto, financial theft, and identity theft. As the case gains national attention through widespread media coverage, she earns the nickname Killer Grandma. News outlets nationwide ask anyone who sees Lois or her vehicle to come forward. When a promising tip brings investigators one step closer to ending her reign of terror, one question remains. Can they get to her before she disappears once again? At 6:58 p.m. on April 19th, over a week since she was last spotted on traffic cameras, Lois enters Dirty Al's restaurant on South Padre Island in Texas, just 30 miles from the Mexican border. She lingers upon entering, taking a moment to look at the posted menu near the main cash register. It isn't long before an employee sees Lois and stands watch.
Oh,
as she suddenly leaves for the exit, the 2 male employees briefly converse before following her.
Okay.
That's a Florida license plate.
Well, she was driving a Florida license plate. Where?
Right here, that white car.
That couldn't hurt.
The man takes down her license plate and local authorities are contacted. Police arrive at 7:50 p.m., nearly an hour after she left the building. It seems as though she slipped away once more. It's a devastating blow to their search, but in a shocking twist of events, while officers wait for someone who can show them the surveillance footage, they begin to search the conjoined parking lot and spot the stolen car at the restaurant next door. They enter the restaurant and find Lois sitting at the bar, talking with an unknown male, but wait for backup before moving in for the arrest. At 8:25 p.m. on April 19th, multiple officers move in and finally make an arrest, unaware of just how close Lois may have come to claiming a third victim. With Lois now in custody, one chilling question remains unanswered. What drove Lois to commit not one, but two brutal acts of murder?
Lois, what's your last name? Yeah. I'll come out. Right now you're going to be okay. One detain.
One more time.
Double lock it. Okay, no.
According to the man she was with, he and his friend met Lois at Padre Rita's Grill. She told them she was staying next door at the Motel 6 and was a widow searching for a place to live in South Padre. The jaw-dropping evidence in her motel room will later be found in a search by investigators. For now, the man explains that he and a friend went with Lois on April 17th for drinks before dropping her off at her motel. Both men found Lois to be completely normal, never witnessing any emotional breakdowns or outbursts, with one mentioning she was even flirting with him.
Is your driver's license in here, ma'am?
Yes.
It is. The way I can run it real quick.
Oh, yeah. Get there. Here,
Okay, this one right here.
Just an FYI.
Okay. It's not really your car. Okay. You wanna run it real quick? It's out of Minnesota. It's in there.
It's out of Minnesota?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but the warrant I do believe might be out of Florida. I didn't get a chance to even look up our stuff because it was like.
Yeah.
It was like, whoa, don't look.
Lisa, if you wanna.
I'll get my cuffs back when we get over there.
Just go ahead and grab your unit and follow into the station.
When news of her arrest broke, a woman came forward with a harrowing story. She told investigators that while eating alone at a restaurant on the island, she befriended a woman who identified herself as LaDonna, who was recently widowed and spending time away from her family to grieve. They met again for drinks on April 15th. The woman allowed LaDonna to come home with her, letting her stay in her guest bedroom. They had plans to meet again on Friday, April 20th, just one day after her arrest, where she learned LaDonna was Lois Reese. When investigators from Minnesota and Florida learn of her arrest, they fly to Texas to meet with Lois for an interrogation. However, Lois invokes Miranda rights and asks for a lawyer. Eventually, Lois will break her silence and recount the shocking details of her final moments with David and her motives for pulling the trigger. For now, Lois raises an unusual concern.
The process for getting you out of here takes a little bit of time, and you got to get transported back to Florida. So I imagine in a couple weeks, we'll see you back in the Lee County Jail, and then from there you'll be eventually going back to Minnesota to deal with the charges up there.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions of us right now?
Well, they put me in a room that has a bed.
I'm sorry?
Well, they put me in a room that has a cot or something.
When you come to Florida?
For 2 weeks,
Oh, here?
I'll sit on that bench.
No, you'll be. I believe you're going to be transferred to a sheriff's office.
Dude, you have something to sleep on, lady. What the what?
You'll have to see a judge, I think, for extradition purposes in the morning, a magistrate. And then from there, you'll be going to a sheriff's office where they'll house you until we come pick you up.
And they'll be able to answer some of those questions that you have about the bed. We just don't, we're not
from here.
So
Oh,
if,
okay.
if you do have some of those concerns,
Well, they just-
when you go downstairs, I
I
would
just
say,
know it'd be better for my edema and my blood pressure, like
Yeah.
they said.
It'd probably be better if you ate some food too.
Yeah, but it'd be worse if I had to go to the hospital and have an attack. It'd be worse.
Oh, for sure. All right, that's why we're getting you crackers right now.
That's fine.
One final question from Lois leads to a shocking revelation as she learns the truth of just how far her notoriety has spread.
I guess one question I have is, do my kids know?
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if you know this or not, but your whole story has been national news. Okay. It broke last night. It broke last night that you were arrested in South Padre Island, that you're alive and well, and that you were found by the U.S. Marshals and the local police department here. So,
so they know.
I don't personally know that they know, but I can tell you that every local news media outlet nationwide has picked up the story.
Okay.
Before searching Lois's motel room, investigators spoke with an employee of Motel 6. She says Lois claimed to be a victim of domestic violence, hiding from her husband, who was a cop. When she next saw her, she appeared to be completely different, even dressing more provocatively. During one conversation, she heard Lois say, "I need a sugar daddy," before asking about another customer seen driving an expensive vehicle, raising unsettling questions about her future plans. A search of her motel room uncovered a mountain of evidence. Among the discoveries is a white towel wrapped around a pair of sunglasses, previously seen to be worn by Pamela. Lois's distinctive white hat, earlier seen to be worn as she withdrew $5,000 using Pamela's identity, is located on a pile of clothing. They also locate credit cards and checkbooks belonging to both David and Pamela, along with Pamela's luggage. A road atlas is found, and tucked within its pages is a brochure for a casino in Eagle Pass, Texas. They also uncover Pamela's driver's license, and finally, 2 loaded firearms. With a mountain of evidence against her, Lois is extradited to Florida and held without bond to face charges for the murder of 59-year-old Pamela Hutchinson. To avoid the death penalty, Lois pleaded guilty on December 17, 2019 to 1 count of first-degree murder, grand theft of a motor vehicle, grand theft of property, and criminal identity theft. She later returned to Minnesota to face charges for the murder of 54-year-old David Reese. At a hearing on August 11, 2020, in the auditorium of a Minnesota high school, after delays due to coronavirus, she pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and shared with the judge her version of what happened on the fateful night of March 5, 2018. According to Lois, she and David had a heated argument following their grandson's basketball game. She claims David handed her a loaded firearm, encouraged her to turn it on herself and take her own life, saying, "Maybe you will get it right this time." In her own words, she explains, "He was right in front of me, and I looked right at his heart and I pulled the trigger." However, this is based solely on Lois's account, and David will never have the opportunity to confirm or deny her claim. As for Pamela, Lois never provides a reason for taking her life. For both murders, Lois Reese was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She's currently serving both life sentences concurrently at the Shakopee Correctional Facility in Minnesota.
Crime. It does say in the title. Game was dud. Sorry, that was a dud. It's crazy how some bad can turn the whole pace up. So it was, right? Basketball. Got the right, named the right sport ball. This one we get to see Beard Mister. On for that. A Christmas one. Oh. Perfect.
One of the worst Christmas songs ever. Next up, it's Beard Meets Food with Grab the Mince Pies.
Told you this is a Christmas one. Oh, that's cool. Okay, this is actually a video.
Pretty much anywhere you could download music.
Oh, the actual video you did.
And I'll leave
Don't worry.
below in the description box and the pinned comment on how you can do that. And just like last year, the year before that,
Lot of music
all
on
proceeds
that.
from downloads will be going to a charity called the Stroke Association, which is really important to me and my family. They do a lot of really important work supporting stroke survivors, and it's particularly important this time of year when everyone's going out having fun, partying. It can be a really tough time of year for people who may have recently suffered a stroke. They could be bedbound, unable to talk, walk, communicate, even just enjoy a bit of food. So it would really mean a lot to me if you would download the song. It's only 99p. Equally, I know things are pretty tight right now, so if you can't download it, but you've got access to a streaming service like Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, any of the posh ones, then if you stream it to death, that'll definitely help. Sadly, you don't earn anywhere near as much from a stream as a download, but every little helps. So if you would stream it or download it, it would really mean the world to me. And all proceeds from streams and downloads will be going to the Stroke Association. And when I say all proceeds, I mean everything, not just profit or anything like that. Everything that's raised from downloads and streams of this song or any of the other embarrassing songs I've done over the years will go in perpetuity till the end of time to the Stroke Association. So if you're one of those mad people, I know you're out there, that listen to the songs year round, then at least you're suffering for a reason and the money's going to a good place. Now, I don't want to ramble.
Awesome.
I've got a few thanks I want to get out there before I leave you. First of all, to my sister Jen for embarrassing herself for the second year in a row. Second, to a good friend of mine now, Matt O'Grady, who produced the song and made us sound something like actual musicians, made it sound like we know what we're doing. Gary Tuff, who recorded the drums on this one, whose skill level greatly exceeds my own, so I'm glad we had Gary drumming along with us for this one. I want to thank everyone at Get Your Media and Production House who brought the video to life. It was a huge undertaking, lots of moving parts, and everyone worked really hard, so I want to thank everyone that was involved in that, and the edit, the special effects, everything like that. I want to thank all the crew and the cast